Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
Ready to make a real impact every day? Join the Active Day Home Care team and help clients maintain their independence in the comfort of their own homes. Make a difference in someone's life as you provide essential daily assistance and protect their health and happiness. Earn up to $20 an hour and enjoy additional perks like optional daily pay, 401k, paid time off, ongoing educational training, and more. Join a team that values care, compassion, and your professional growth. Visit activeday.com to apply.
Attention, you're listening to the Todd Huff Radio Show, America's home for conservative, not bitter talk radio. Be advised that the content of this program has been documented to prevent and even cure liberalism, and listening may cause you to lean to the right. Here's your conservative, but not bitter host, Todd Huff.
Well, that is right, my friends. You have successfully and ever so wisely tuned in to America's home for conservative, not bitter talk. I'm your host, the one, the only, the ever so beloved Todd Huff. Again, it's my pleasure to be here. If you want to be part of the conversation, my friends, I welcome you. Email Todd at toddhuffshow.com. You can also connect with us on social media, whether that be Facebook, whether that be Instagram, whether that be TikTok. Yes, we're on TikTok. I can't believe I'm saying some of these things. YouTube, if I didn't say that. Rumble. Todd Huff Show is the, account, the handle for those accounts. X as well. It's a pleasure, my friends, to be here today. You know, I want to cover a couple of things. I want to continue this discussion about Iran. That's where I want to start. I also want to get us, time permitting, to the further into the discussion of what's happening with these Democrats who are intentionally, and hear me say this is planned, this is orchestrated, this is dramacrats being dramacrats. They are orchestrating a bunch of shenanigans to get themselves arrested, looking for the headline, looking for the image of the day so that they can take to the podium like Senator Padilla did yesterday. And I can't take any more of it. I have to be honest. It's unbelievable. It is unbelievable listening to these jokers and clowns do this. And so he took to the podium yesterday in the Senate, got a real tearjerker going. I've got zero sympathy and understanding for this. This is staged. This is orchestrated. This is planned. This is what they want. This is not real. They are interfering with legal operations from ICE. This needs to be stopped. These folks need to be held accountable. And yes, my friends, if they're breaking the law, they need to face the consequences of that. I am not in favor of targeting political opposition. I am a big disbeliever in that. However, if you are on the other side of the political aisle, or by the way, if you're on the same side as me and you're breaking the law, how about we say it that way? You should deal with the consequences of that. I don't understand how any objective person, I understand how people get caught up in the emotion, how they get caught up in the way that, I barely understand this today, but you see the headlines and the way it's talked about in the media. I understand how that can be, I don't know, misleading, captivating to some people, but I do not understand how adults can be so misled by the shenanigans. The only thing I can think of is that some people are really that disengaged and really that low on information and understanding. That's a group. There's another group that simply wants to believe this, and they want to use this as their excuse, right? There's Zig Ziglar said when we look to buy a product, when we're dealing with someone, we're looking to buy a car, for example, we're looking for a reason, but also an excuse, so that when a spouse or a friend or someone asks us why we made a purchase, we have a reason, better yet, an excuse for why we did it. I think some people, they're looking for an excuse to excuse the behavior, to excuse the shenanigans that's happening in the Democrat Party. That's on my list of things to get to as well today in due course. I want to start with Iran. I want to start with regime change. Before I do that, my friends, are you tired of spending hard-earned dollars that you've made, that you've earned, at businesses that then turn around and support leftist causes, my friends? Well, that's exactly why we created Freedom Marketplace. It is free. It is a searchable directory of conservative businesses. Let's just say businesses that share your conservative values. We don't require people to have a certain ideology, but I will tell you this, the people that are on that platform believe in America. They love America. They love freedom. They love the free marketplace. They love free speech. And they are in alignment with conservative values. These are not people looking to the government for more, control, more taxing, more federal spending, more government programs to solve some problem. These are businesses that believe in old school, just traditional values like personal responsibility, for example, hard work, providing a quality product at a fair price. That's what folks at Freedom Marketplace do, and they have taken a vow not to support leftist candidates or leftist causes. No login required for you, my friends. No strings attached. Just good, patriotic businesses that are pushing in the same direction you are. Check it out today, freedommarketplace.net. That's freedommarketplace.net. Liberty and business for all. All right, let's start. We talked a little bit yesterday about regime change in Iran. I've tried to be fair in my assessment as to what is going on. I've tried to be fair to explain the perspectives, and I can do that again really quickly, but I also want to insert my own opinions. I've kind of kept my opinions out of this a little bit because I think that there are concerns clearly on both sides of this. So let's take a step back. I don't want to do the whole history again as we did yesterday, but we know that we're in a world today where there are Islamo-fascists, Islamo-terrorists, and people who maybe don't technically fall. Maybe someone doesn't think Iran technically falls into a state sponsor of terror. I don't know how they couldn't think that, but let's just say that they see Iran differently than they would see Hezbollah, Hamas, Al-Qaeda, ISIS. But we know what people do who believe in these extreme ideologies. Again, Iran is interested in Sharia law. Iran is a theocracy. Iran is not a democracy. Iran is oppressing its people under the name of, they're doing it under the name of Islam. People would say that's not the proper interpretation of Islam. Muslims can argue about that. I'm simply saying that is what Iran is doing. They are oppressing people in the name of their religion, and they desire to have that level of control and authority outside of the nation of Iran. They want to have it in the entire region of the Middle East. And in spite of what you'll find online, in spite of what you'll see probably summarized by AI. I'm telling you, Iran would love nothing more than to have a worldwide caliphate, a worldwide Sharia law, where the entire globe is subjected to Sharia law, which is led by someone like an Ayatollah, the supreme leader, the religious leader, effectively, of the world, merging politics and religion, and they will tell you what to do and how to do it, or else. They would love nothing more than that. Now, this is diametrically opposed to Western civilization. This is diametrically opposed to the concepts of liberty, the concepts laid forth in our Constitution. This is a natural enemy, if you will, of Western thought, of, liberalism, not in the sense of how it's been destroyed and taken over and hijacked, the term anyway. Classical liberalism. This is actually conservatives. Conservatives, limited government types, are today's, historically, what would be referred to as a classical liberal. Liberals today have hijacked that term and made it mean radical lovers of big government. But those who believe in limited, small government, maximizing liberty, personal choice, freedom, free markets, all that stuff, that is about as opposite from the theocratic ideology of the Islamic Republic of Iran. In fact, if you look ideologically, the communist dictators of their day, which of course there's still plenty of those around the planet today, but doesn't have the stronghold it once had on the entire world as it did with the existence of the Soviet Union. These two ideologies, the theocracy, the theocratic state of Iran, and the communist state of Russia, the Soviet Union, I should say, their ideologies are much closer aligned. They believe in centralized power, decision-making. They believe, now you could say in one sense they're opposite. Communism says there is no God. The state is God. The theocratic regime in Iran says there is a religion that's true, and that is Islam. But to me, the practical difference between the two as far as how people under those heavy-handed regimes live is not that different. Both of them, but people under both regimes, are fighting for their liberty and freedom, their ability to make choices, their ability to live their lives as they see fit, seeking to worship the God, whichever God, even if it's no God, but seeking to have the ability to worship how they choose, live as they choose to live, wear what they want to wear, all that kind of stuff. And so this is just like the Soviet communists were diametrically opposed to what we believe, what this nation was founded on. Likewise, the Iranian theocratic Islamic Republic of Iran is the opposite in many ways, in lots of ways, in every measurable way from what we have here as well. Now, that doesn't mean that that's enough to create, you go to war with somebody. That's not what I'm saying, but I'm saying that is underneath all of this. Because when you have a group of people who believe that it is their moral duty, their religious mandate, whatever rationale and reason they give, but if there are people who believe it's their duty to rule over you and me by force, those people are by definition a threat. And so this is how it's been for a long time, since their existence, since they took over in 1979. And they've been a problem since that period of time, the Iranian leaders. And again, I keep mentioning the leaders because, folks, there is an uprising. This is an opportunity. In fact, this is a chance for there to be true positive revolution in the nation of Iran. And that would be the best thing to happen if the people could somehow overthrow their own government. And to replace it, well, I understand you got what happens next. What are we going to replace it with? But That would be the best way to bring this to an end, that the government collapses, these maniacal dictators and lunatics and folks who are threatening to wipe Israel off the face of the planet, these people who have put extreme bondage and pain and suffering on their own people, for those folks to no longer be in a position to rule the nation and to threaten the region and, to some extent, the rest of the world. So it'd be best if that happened. Now, there are two other groups, right? You got that group that says, hey, that they can manage their own problems as they see fit. Then you've got the two groups that say, look, one group says, if that doesn't happen in Iran, I'm not predicting that it will. I'm just saying there is a potential for that to happen. I think in terms of probabilities and statistics, percentages, then I don't think in absolutes when it comes to things like this. I mean, one of the outcomes absolutely will be the case. I just don't know what it is. I think in terms of which one is more likely, and there is a % chance, I don't know what it is, that the Iranian people will successfully overthrow their government. Then you have the other two options, which is Israel continues to do what it does, the United States stays out, and that plays out, which will be victory for Israel. It's just unknown if they're going to be able to take out, or how they would take out, some of these nuclear facilities that need to be taken out to make sure Iran is not pumping out nuclear weapons that they can lob towards Israel or threaten the rest of the world with, the rest of the region with. Then there's a group that says that there's mounting pressure from some for Trump to allow the United States to come in with their big bunker-busting bombs. I actually saw a video on this yesterday. I think it was yesterday. It could have been the day before. But some of these, the technology we have to strike, I think it was 200 feet. Some of these bunker-busting weapons, and who knows if that's even, look, we might have stuff better than that. What we know, or what we think we know about the capabilities of our military, they may have something that's even better than what we think we know. But what we do know, or what we've been told, what seems to be the case, is that there's one particular weapon that I believe weighs, I think it's 30,000 pounds. Is that what I saw? 30? Is that right? 3,000? I don't know. It's a big bomb. Maybe it's 3,000. Either way, it's a heavy bomb. In fact, the B-2, the stealth bomber, can only carry 2 of these in its bay. It's that's its payload. It puts 2 of these in there. That's all it can carry. And so you got these massive bombs that are precision guided, that have the capacity to, I don't know how, but to basically drill down 200 feet. 200 feet below the surface of the earth, which is, if this is, they might be under the mountains in some places, which poses a whole different set of problems. Israel has some of these bunker-busting bombs, but they don't have, to my knowledge, my understanding, they don't have the most powerful, the ones that can penetrate the deepest. That's something that we have kept to ourselves. In part, maybe because we don't want other people to have them. I don't know. Maybe because other folks don't have necessarily the aircraft to carry these weapons. Regardless, that's the next step in this. And so some people say absolutely not should the United States be engaged in this war directly. Other people say yes, it should, because a nuclear Iran is a direct threat against the United States of America and our interests. So I was sympathetic and understanding, and I agree in large part with those who say the United States should not be involved in regime change. But here's the thing, though. If you have a group of leaders, which I think we do in Iran, I think that this is well established. In fact, I had a little bit of an argument with AI this morning about summarizing this. I told them that Iran didn't follow the nuclear deal, and it said, yes, they did. And I said, I think you're misleading, or I think you're ignoring a couple of key points. I said, first, you're ignoring how Iran did not cooperate with inspectors. And so you can say that Iran was following the agreement prior to Trump taking us out of the agreement. So Obama initiated it. It started in 2015. I remember at the time, that was right around the time that we started this program. By the way, we're about to embark upon our 10th anniversary here at the program in a couple of months, August 10th, 2015. This is our 10th year. But I remember talking about this. I remember referencing North Korea, which I referenced the other day. North Korea, President Clinton at the time, had a signed piece of paper and a pinky promise that North Korea wasn't going to have nuclear weapons. And then one day, sometime, some years later, we wake up to news that North Korea has cracked the code and has their own nuclear weapon. And to me, should have been the lesson that, first of all, we should have known this before signing the piece of paper and having a pinky promise with Kim Jong-il. But, we have people who are, I don't know, they're a little bit naive. They want to believe these things, and they want to believe you have a piece of paper that's being signed by some madman who thinks that he's literally God or tells his people that he's God. You think that individual can somehow be held to honor their word and not to pursue nuclear weapons. This to me is idiotic to think that this sort of thing works. And it did not work. And so not long after we find out North Korea has nuclear weapons, after signing a pinky paper and giving us a pinky promise, we embark upon the same thing with Iran. And I had problems with this deal back from the very beginning. To me, the deal actually put Iran on a path towards obtaining a nuclear weapon. It gave them the permission of the United States and the Western world for them to engage in enriching uranium, but they couldn't go past a certain percentage, 3.67%, I believe it was, because then you go from, the type of, say, nuclear energy you would need for delivering power to people in the countryside of your country. And now you go beyond that, you're going to weapons grade refining capabilities, which they would not have needed. And so the deal was, look, you keep it at this level, you don't go beyond this. We have inspectors come in, we make sure that you have centrifuges, but you can only have a certain number of centrifuges. One of the things that my problem from the beginning was is that we trusted them to comply. We trusted them to not be hiding stuff from us. I think that there's no doubt that they hid stuff from us. This is a demonstrable, easy to prove fact that they kept things hidden from us. And so the agreement, the starting point of the agreement was we're going to allow Iran to move towards weapons grade enrichment capabilities, but they're not going to go beyond that. And we all sit there and say, wow, that sounds great. And I'm over here thinking, what on earth are we getting ourselves into? Because it doesn't make any sense from a common sense perspective. But that's what we did. And they suspended. Iran has done a lot to not cooperate with inspectors. They stopped key monitoring measures. The IAEA has expressed on numerous accounts that Tehran's cooperation has been completely unsatisfactory. That was their word, not mine. Their ability to verify whether their activities remained peaceful have been hindered severely. And the UN, I got to take a break here. I'll just pick up here where we left off. I just glanced down and saw the clock. Quick time out, my friends. Back in just a minute.
Ready to make a real impact every day? Join the Active Day Home Care team and help clients maintain their independence in the comfort of their own homes. Make a difference in someone's life as you provide essential daily assistance and protect their health and happiness. Earn up to $20 an hour and enjoy additional perks like optional daily pay, 401k, paid time off, ongoing educational training, and more. Join a team that values care, compassion, and your professional growth. Visit activeday.com to apply.
You have unread texts from Golf Buds. Would you like me to read them?
Yes.
Okay. Johnny says, what are the nicotine pouches you had on the course? Walker says, 8 milligram on nicotine pouches. Billy says, I love the mint one.
I like that one.
Walker says, me too. By the way, you both stink at golf. LOLOL.
Come on. Carry on nicotine pouches. Shop now at onnicotine.com/group text. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
Welcome back, my friends. Just going through how we got here a little bit differently than we did yesterday and talking about the two options. Well, the option of A, letting Israel continue to handle this on their own, or B, does the United States step in by providing the weaponry to take out these facilities that maybe Israel's weaponry can't get to? Who knows? I mean, they may have to send in... Listen, Israel's been remarkable in how they've infiltrated into Iran. They built drones within Iran, launching attacks from within. I think that they've affected the Iranian defense systems numerous ways with, through cyber hacks and all sorts of things like that. They know where their weaponry is. They've taken them offline. These missile launchers. They've taken them out in some cases. And the number of missiles that Iran has been able to successfully launch has dropped significantly, which leads us to believe have they been hacked? Have they been compromised in other ways? Have they been taken out with, people who've been covertly inside of Iran? I don't know. There's been reports of some people that have been there for years. Israel has known for a long time that Iran is a threat to its very existence. This is not hard to comprehend and understand. It may be hard to comprehend the level of hatred and evil in the Iranian leadership and how much they hate the nation of Israel to the point where they quite literally are calling publicly for its absolute annihilation. The same for us, by the way. Death to Israel, they say. Death to the United States. Death to America. We are what are we? Are we the great Satan or the little? I think Israel's the little Satan. We're the great Satan, according to the Iranians. So, I mean, we gave these folks basically the keys towards developing nuclear weapons. But we told them you can have enough enrichment capabilities to use it to take care of your people, which, of course, the leaders have no interest in taking care of their people. How stupid does one have to be to engage in this nuclear deal that we had with Iran to begin with? I mean, it's the amount of ignorance, blatant stupidity. Again, some guy at the time I was podcasting out of a closet. How on earth did I know more than the Obama administration? I mean, same is true for the vast majority of you. But how did we know? None of this is surprising. That Iran was not cooperating, that they made it hard for inspectors to keep track of things, to see what was really going on. In fact, recent UN board findings have said the same thing. Iran refused inspections at several sites. There was some undeclared nuclear material that was found that the Iranians could not explain. They barred access to the facilities, certain places. They said you couldn't have cameras there. And they were formally rebuked a couple of days ago. The inspectors were not given full visibility. And Iran obstructed, the entire time. This is a game to them. They wanted a weapon, and they wanted a nuclear weapon, and they wanted the ability to have some political cover. So they came up with this story that says, hey, we need nuclear energy to deliver power to people out in the countryside. And we just went along with this. I mean, the level of stupidity is beyond me. It truly is. Just absolutely beyond me. So, and critics knew this, by the way. In fact, they warned people from the very start. The Iran nuke deal was called the JCPOA officially. There were limits that were placed in that deal, but it gave Iran significant capacity. So it moved them towards by following the deal, they were closer to the point of having a nuclear weapon at the end of the deal than they were at the beginning of the deal. That should be a problem when you're talking about a nation run by maniacal, anti-Semitic lunatics. Again, I mentioned here the deal permitted enrichment up to 3.67%, and those limits would automatically expire after 10 to 15 years, and those and other limits in this deal. So the closer they got to the end of this deal, the safeguards that were built in were going to expire and be removed anyway. So they were going to continue to allow Iran to build centrifuges, to stockpile enriched uranium that was closer to weapons grade. And candidly, in my opinion, they probably could have been able to do a little bit more and hide it from the inspectors and actually start producing weapons grade uranium. And nobody would have known it because they weren't allowing inspections. I mean, the Iranians are not stupid. These leaders might be acting out of pure evil, but they're not stupid. So they have not had a history of cooperation, and they have a history of doing things covertly. And the bottom line is that the nuclear deal that was signed by Obama in 2015 moved Iran closer to having the ability to use nuclear weapons than when it started. And so that was the starting point of this whole thing. And so now we act shocked. Some people do anyway. Some people still don't believe. Some people still blame Israel. Israel's been warning of this for 30 years. Yeah, they've been warning of this for 30 years or maybe even longer because this is exactly what Iran has set out to do. This was a ploy by Iran. This was a game being played by Iran, and it's gotten them within a few steps of the finish line. And so Israel, in a desire to protect its very existence, said, we're going to do something about it. We're going to stop their capabilities. So that's what's happened. That's why we're here. Now, the question is, should the United States get involved? Now, Netanyahu's made it clear, and especially in conversations with Trump and things that have been reported, that he wants the Ayatollah Khamenei to be, taken out. They've taken out a lot of key leadership. In fact, that might be another reason why Iran has not been able to respond to some of these attacks efficiently, because the people who are making the decisions and giving the orders have been, they've been getting picked off. They've been getting taken out by the Israelis, by the Mossad, by those who have been covertly operating, it appears, in Iran for some time. They have basically taken the head off the snake. There was a time when some people were speculating that maybe Khamenei was actually already killed. I don't think that's the case, but I don't know. Regardless here, when you start talking of taking out a leader, now you've got this whole argument of, okay, now we're in regime change, and it leads us back down the path that we were walking in 2003 in this country with Saddam Hussein and all that happened there, right? We wanted to change the regime. They were accused of having weapons of mass destruction. We couldn't trust the leadership, and so we went in to stop them. Ostensibly, that was the argument at the time, from using their weapons of mass destruction. Of course, we've never discovered any evidence that there was a little bit that there might have been something here or there, but there was nothing to the scale of what we were led to believe, whether intentionally or unintentionally. That's didn't turn out to be the case. And so the whole idea was regime change the people making the decisions and things will be better. Well, there's no guarantee of that. And then that's a messy proposition to engage in to begin with. And so that's why, for many people, myself included, it would be nice to see the Iranian regime toppled, but have it toppled by the people of Iran. That would be the best solution, but there's no guarantee that that's even remotely possible. I think it's more possible today than it has been, but that's just where we are. So you're stuck in this reality that says, okay, it's clear that the current leadership, the Ayatollah and the mullahs there, they have no interest in anything other than the annihilation of Israel. You can't come to the table, the negotiating table, and deal with someone whose starting point is the annihilation, destruction, and the death of the other party. There's no way to compromise with that. And so we're stuck with this reality that says it's impossible to deal with that sort of a situation. So what are we supposed to do? We don't want to be the ones involved because that could have negative consequences for, the way that other countries in the world view us. It could turn the tide of public opinion even more against the United States. All of those sorts of things could pull us into a war. These are all possibilities. But on the other side of this, you're stuck with the reality. If we let this guy and the folks that are running that country continue, we're going to get more of the same. There's going to be more relentless pursuit of nuclear weapons and more desire to use them to take out their enemy, Israel. And who knows, maybe sometime target the United States with something as well. Got to take a break, my friends. Sit tight. Back here in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. So, what do I think? Well, I reserve the right to adjust my thinking on this. These are complex issues. I can see the merits and the arguments being made on both sides. I do not want the United States to be in a war. We don't need to be engaging in senseless wars or wars that have no easy exit point or whatever. And so that should be, I think, avoided at all costs, which I think we're doing a good job of that. However, I keep coming back to the fact that this is not going to end until these facilities that are apparently, at least at the moment, outside of the reach of Israeli weapons, until those are taken out, this is going to continue. And it may continue after that as well. I find myself at least wondering what the harm would be if we took out. I know that would be viewed very, very negatively by lots of people. But if it's a targeted strike on a facility that candidly either shouldn't be in existence or which we believe is being used to weaponize, to create a weapon, a nuclear weapon, it's not supposed to be there to begin with. This is precisely what this paper and pinky promise Obama made with the Iranians was supposed to prevent. But yet here we are. And so there's a difference between trying to take out the Ayatollah and changing the regime versus taking out these facilities that would give this madman and the mullahs the capability of taking out or, having a weapon produced that could take out the nation of Israel, devastate Israel. We've already seen some of these weapons get through Israelis' defenses. But I don't know. What happens if does the Iron Dome, what happens if it strikes a nuclear weapon? I still think that that's going to be devastating to detonate a nuclear weapon over your, have an intercepting missile take that out en route. It's not like that's not going to cause devastation still for your nation. So this is a precarious situation, and they need to, when it comes to their nuclear capabilities, be taken back to zero. So I find myself, while this is not, again, popular at the moment, there's a lot of opposition to the United States doing anything, which I understand. And I don't want to be in a war, but I find myself thinking, is there no way that we can drop this bunker-busting weapon to finish taking these out? I understand the desire to try to avoid that at all costs, but if Israel can't take these out, and they've still got the capability, and they're still going to be run by the same madman and the same madmen that have gotten us to this point, is this not the best option? I understand that that'll be blown out of proportion. I understand that that will be used in messaging to say that the United States is waging war against Islam. I understand that there are threats there. So I'm hesitant, but I'm saying I'm understanding and find myself thinking that may be, I'm not definitive on this, but that may be the best option. Again, the best option would be that we weren't here. The best option would have been that we didn't live with our heads in the sands and thinking that everything was going to be all good because they signed a piece of paper with Obama 10 years ago. This was predictable. We knew that this was coming, and here we are. So they have to be taken down to zero as far as their capabilities are concerned. I agree that we shouldn't be engaged in regime change, while at the same time thinking that regime change is necessary. And I would say that I hope and pray that the Iranians can actually get enough traction to change their own regime. And of course, if Israel has a way, besides dropping bombs that can't apparently take out these facilities that are underground once and for all, maybe there's another way. Maybe they can infiltrate and, manually detonate these things with explosives and ordinances that they would place there themselves. I don't know. But that's the direction I lean, because this cannot be allowed to happen, my friends. So, reaching the end of the hour here, this actually sets it up well, because sets up where I want to go next, which is to talk about Senator Padilla, who's out there, he and the other members of the Democrat Party who are engaging in political theater, really bad political theater, by the way. They're engaging in this. They're acting like they're being targeted for simply asking questions of this administration. That's clearly not what is going on. But again, that's the narrative in the media, and that's the danger of us even taking a targeted strike on a nuclear facility here or there. But that's what we're going to have to deal with if we decide to do this. And I know that that's what they were meeting and talking about, among other things, regarding this conflict in the Situation Room yesterday. So we're going to head to Padilla, what the left is doing in regards to these ICE raids in the next hour, my friends. But before I get there, you know that a good night's sleep is critically important. MyPillow can help you get that good night's sleep with their patented MyPillow pillows, cooling technology, adjustable fill. These are nice pillows. They've got other great products as well that you can find on their website, mypillow.com. If you go there and use promo code Todd, my friends, you will get discounts on the products there. Check it out, mypillow.com, promo code Todd. I'm out of time here this hour. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you in the next hour, my friends. SDG.